All right, it is 6 o'clock, so we will get started. So good evening and welcome to this Tuesday, March 18th, 2025 meeting of the Raymore Planning and Zoning Commission. If you would rise as able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I will note, because apparently our agenda has changed orders, and I am, in my mind, keep going to the pledge. So that was actually item 3. Item 2 is roll call, so I apologize for being out of order. Commissioner Bowie.
Present.
Commissioner Smith.
Present.
I don't see Commissioner Harrison. Vice Chair Fizer.
Present.
Secretary Peterman.
Present.
Secretary Shanks.
Present.
Sorry, did I say Secretary? Commissioner Shanks, my apologies. Commissioner Kia.
Present.
Mayor Turnbow.
Present.
And Chairman Wiggins here, so we have 8 this evening. Wonderful. No personal appearances scheduled tonight, so we'll move right into item 5, consent agenda. One item, item A, the approval of minutes from the February 4th, 2025 meeting. Entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Turnbow, second by Commissioner Bowie to approve. Any discussion of the item? Seeing none, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Opposed and abstentions. All right, 7-0-1, thank you. Moving right along, we have no unfinished business, so move into item 7, new business. 2 items tonight. The first item is item A, case 25006, Madison Valley 4th final plat. The staff or applicant to please present the case tonight.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Chair, as well as the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. What you have before you is an application requesting a final plat approval for Madison Valley 4th final plat. This plat includes 32 residential lots with 3 common tracts of land, 2 of which are being used for landscape buffering. 1 is for storm detention. The property, as it sits today, is zoned R1.5. That's a single-family residential district. In December of 2021, the City Council had approved the Madison Valley Phase 2 preliminary plat. That plat in total contained 154 residential lots. It was set to expire at the end of 2022, and prior to that expiration, the applicant came back to the City Council and got an extension on that preliminary plat, which it was approved for. The City Council then reconvened and approved the Madison Valley second final plat on May 22nd, 2023, and following that, in June of 2023, the third final plat for Madison Valley was also approved. And that kind of brings us to where we are today with this fourth plat. Staff has reviewed all of the findings of fact associated with the case and recommends approval of case 25006 Madison Valley 4th plat with the conditions listed in the staff report, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Do any members of the commission have any questions for city staff or the applicant? I had one real quick question, and David, maybe you can help remind me, or maybe members of the commission might. Looking at this 4th final plat in the southwest corner of the plat, that's where the detention basin, the drainage is. And maybe Commissioner Urquia might recall, because I believe it was him that brought it up. That street that terminates just into a dead end, did we ask if that could just be that piece of the street removed and it just be a 90-degree? I felt like that was...
I think there was discussion because there was never going to be anything.
Because it just goes into somebody's side yard, and it's you have a lot on one side and you have a detention basin on the next. Does that ring a bell to you? Does that ring a bell at all? And just curious if that was something that got put back in, what the purpose of that was. Otherwise, you've got 50 feet of asphalt that just dead ends to nothing.
Yeah, so definitely a unique situation. I assume you're talking about the Lemon Mint Drive extension, which is between Tract I and Lot 84.
Yes.
So the history on some of that, when the initial preliminary plat for Madison Valley, well before this one was approved, that extension was approved as part of that plat. It was actually put that way to provide future access into Lot 1 of Wedgewood Meadows, which is the larger property to the south. Currently, that property has access off of North Park, but there's a condition there that it can only provide access for one residential home. The property owner of that lot did some kind of planning and forethought for how they could subdivide that property in the future to be more of an R1 subdivision via a cul-de-sac. And so that's what Lemon Mint Drive will eventually be extended south into that property as a public street, and then the potential for lots to be constructed and subdivided in the future. So that's the reason for that right-of-way and road being dedicated to the city. I believe there was some discussion with the commission at the time about, from that property owner requesting that street remain. One thing that has changed that we're trying a little bit differently, though, is that typically with this, you would see that that road would be constructed from day one and it would be a stub street. We historically have had a lot of issues from multiple vehicles being parked on those stub streets. They deteriorate over time. By the time that they're ready to be extended, they usually have to be rebuilt or at least resurfaced. And so we're kind of trying out the scenario where the applicant here has agreed to dedicate the right-of-way and maintain the unbuilt right-of-way. We're actually going to be turning where Wiltshire stubs into Lemon Mint Drive. That will just end up being built from day one as a 90-degree intersection, more or less. And so our hope is that the developer has also agreed to maintain the grassy area where there will be right-of-way dedicated until such time that the city or the property owner to the south requests that access be constructed. So like I said, that is being proposed as part of the plat, and there's language in the development agreement that kind of addresses the mechanisms for maintaining the undeveloped right-of-way and also the process for constructing that road in the future. But it was actually, I believe, a condition of the preliminary plat that they keep that road extension in there to the benefit of that Lot 1 of Wedgewood Meadows.
Okay. Mr. Zer.
Just for clarification purposes, to follow up with Mr. Gress, inquiring for, is that 90-degree angle going to be curbed and guttered as well, or is it simply going to be an opened corner there?
No, it will be constructed as a curb and gutter street. So it will be constructed like the rest of the subdivision. In the future, when that road is extended, they'll come cut that gutter and curb out and extend the road south, and it'll look at that point like a normal street again. So again, not something we would typically do, but in the past, we have a lot of subdivisions where these stub streets exist. And so just something in between our department and Public Works that we wanted to kind of try out, since we knew that access wasn't needed from day one. And maybe that will kind of influence how we address these in the future.
Okay. So I'm trying to remember the conversation because one of the thoughts that I thought I recalled was the concern of, because it is not a through street, of people parking vehicles, people using it as their own, whatever. And so the commission had discussed and had asked, can we remove it? And the applicant said yes. And then that was, I thought, what we had voted on. So obviously that's...
But if it's still going to be a 90-degree initially, then we are getting what we requested until at which time it turns into an actual road, correct? So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like,
That's fine. I just,
Kind of, I
you
think
see
given
streets
us-
that just kind of stop and, yeah, it's a single property owner that owns that piece to the south, who I believe used to sit right next to me and is also in this audience tonight. So, okay, that was the only real question.
Just to clarify, we did, I have had a couple conversations with Mr. Faulkner about that to ensure that they obviously has some rights that they were trying to protect for the future development. And so we've had a couple conversations about the mechanisms for accomplishing this. And it seems to be that we addressed all the concerns that were there. One more thing to note, just so the commission is aware, the other condition of the preliminary plat at the time was for Park Drive, which is the next street over. As of today, the barricades were dropped off. A requirement for that was to restrict construction traffic on Park until the entire subdivision was complete. And so those barricades were put in place today. And so if you all happen to get any phone calls from any residents in there for any reason, the reason for those barricades was to meet the requirement of eliminating the construction traffic through that neighborhood.
Cool.
That was the only other condition.
I definitely did remember hearing that from public comment, so I appreciate that update as well. Any additional questions or inquiries from commission members? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
I would move to accept the staff proposed findings of fact and forward case 25006 to the city council with a recommendation of approval.
Subject to the conditions or not?
subject to the conditions as provided.
I'll second.
Motion by Mayor Turnbow, second by Commissioner Kia for the Planning and Zoning Commission to accept the proposed findings of fact and forward case 25006, Madison Valley, fourth final plat to the City Council with the three conditions as outlined. Any discussion of the matter? Seeing none, all in favor? That'll pass unanimously, 8-0. Thank you. That will take us to our second item of new business, which is item B, the Raymore Blueprint 2024 Comprehensive Plan Update. Mr. Gress or Mr. McCumber?
Thank you, sir. Wanted to bring this back for any discussion that the commission would like to have. As you probably recall, last year we had a joint work session with the Park Board and the Planning and Zoning Commission to discuss the draft of the comprehensive plan. We also, following that, had a chance to meet with the City Council to talk about some other specific topics with respect to the project, and then took some time to go back and make some of the revisions that kind of came out of those discussions. So what you see before you in your packets this evening was the final draft of the comprehensive plan. We met with the City Council back on March 3rd to have one last kind of work session to discuss some particular topics that were of interest to the council. The Park Board at their last business meeting also passed a resolution to recommend adoption of the Park Master Plan, which is a component of the comprehensive plan. And so tonight was just kind of an update and then any discussion that the commission would like to have about our next steps for the project. We anticipate at this point bringing forward, pending our discussion tonight, holding a public hearing on April 15th for the recommended adoption of our new comprehensive plan, and then following up with that based on the Commission's recommendation to the City Council for their final adoption to be able to start implementing some of the work that is contemplated in this plan. So what you all received a copy of was, again, the most recent draft of the comprehensive plan and then the two market studies that were done as part of it, the retail market analysis and then the housing market analysis. So just wanted to give the Commission kind of a look ahead for what to expect here later in April. We hope to adopt this. If there are any additional topics or comments or questions that the commission has ahead of that, we just wanted to give you all the opportunity to pose those questions and have any discussion if there was any to have. So I'll conclude with that, and staff is happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Commission members, I'd open to any questions or inquiries to city staff regarding the.
I was just curious, I am curious
Please.
about publishing. Is it going to be like pre-published before the hearing or anything?
So we will put it out publicly. There's a couple different formats that we have moving forward, a little bit different than our current comprehensive plan. It'll be published digitally in this current format. We have also, as part of our work with our consultant, they have published it into more of kind of a digital interactive map as well, that's a little bit easier to kind of thumb through as opposed to the really thick document here. So after tonight, we will make those publicly available. When it ends up hopefully getting adopted, we kind of have a draft vision of what the new landing page will be for the comprehensive plan so residents know where they can go to get questions answered, read through the plan, but we have not, since we have not formally adopted it yet, it has not been published on our website or any of our other outlets.
Any other questions for city staff?
Just out of curiosity, once this is approved, how long until you have to do another one of these? Is it every 5 years or?
So the ideal plan is that we won't have to really formally revisit this to do a new one until 2045. It's usually about 20 years worth of time that you can expect out of a plan. The goal would be to revisit it in some capacity annually to kind of make some progress checks on projects that have been done, and then every 5 years probably come back for maybe a little bit more in-depth discussion. I know every year following the adoption of the growth management plan, we had brought that forward for some level of discussion as well, so we would look to continue that with the commission and the council and probably the park board as well after that's adopted.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
So some of the, probably the priority things that the council has taken up with regard to the comprehensive plan is a focus on striking a delicate balance of the types of housing that we have within our community and getting input from the council as to what those tolerances are for percentages with regard to single-family homes, multifamily, duplexes, townhomes, those types of housing opportunities that we have in our community based upon how our comprehensive plan dictates that. And so there's a lot of focus on that right now to try to determine what that right, in getting 8 people to agree to it, is what that right balance is. So that's one of the priority issues that they're working on. And the other is naturally economic development. What we've heard in previous Reimagine Raymore meetings, where we've had the meetings with the groups of citizens. We haven't had one of those lately, but we went back to the results of the last one we've had. Plus, we've also looked at very intently at the surveys that the city does to get input on what some of those priority issues are. Economic development, restaurants is always an interesting topic to talk about. We've talked about redevelopment of what may be a Main Street area for us, if that's the north-south runway of Madison, if it's out there off of Dean and North Cass Parkway. What will that look like? We recently had some I did with the staff, some fairly in-depth conversations with some of the majority landowners here in our community, and what their future aspirations are for the sale of their property, what they're looking at using that for, the types of developers they're talking to. So there's a lot of talks going on there as well. The redevelopment issues, potentially the issuance of CIDs for the area over there off of Pine Street that would allow that area to redevelop itself. And then, of course, we have this major open land right across the street from Willow Wind over there by Foxwood Springs that has, there's a lot of talk going on between developers and the landowners now. And we're trying to, again, strike that delicate balance of what is appropriate for that area, what types of amenities that will bring to the citizens of Raymore, and still keep our balance of housing that we want to keep. We haven't yet decided on that. We haven't struck an actual percentage. David has compared us to several other communities, but for us, it's a bit outdated, and we got chastised by a councilman for that because it really, we were using what is available to us, and we had to go back a couple of years. There's been a lot of changes in the last 2 years, and so those weren't incorporated naturally in that, although we're very aware of those changes that have occurred. And so we have to kind of look at what we've been asked to do by some of the council members, is look at other communities and how they're moving forward with some of their things. I think Leawood has been brought up as an example, or Lenexa. But those are still ongoing talks, and I think that's, David, would you agree that's probably your biggest challenge now, is to somehow get out of the group of 8 what everybody can agree to is a target area?
Yeah, I would agree with the mayor. A focus of the plan was looking at some of the large undeveloped pieces of land that we have, or a couple for redevelopment. A big focus area of all of our community conversations were residents kind of wanting that downtown gathering space that we currently don't have. And so what you'll find in the plan is some recommendations on if any of those priority areas were to develop, different elements and zoning requirements that could really make it feel like that different downtown element. So that's the one piece of it. And then the other aspect is trying to understand the targets or the demands for different types of housing. The housing market study that was provided in your packet provides some good information on what the demand is if the market were to just do its own thing, more or less, based on our previous growth patterns. And then so we had some discussions on whether or not that was the appropriate method, or if there's some goals or targets we should set as or that the council should set to help guide some of the commission's discussions and staff's discussions on projects moving forward. And to Commissioner Schenk's question, the benefit of our comp plan is even, after it gets adopted, it is a living document, so we can always come back and revisit it, reset some goals, look at goals a little bit differently. So we're really excited, hopefully, to be able to start implementing some of the good things that are in this plan and really see some new good development as a result of it.
Thank you. And I assume with, you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, the city council, kind of what they envision. I assume if they have kind of some sort of guidance, Mr. Zur would obviously update us on how we proceed with, obviously, what is, the best use for projects and stuff based on city's goals and everything else like that, because that's a tough balance of what is, 'cause people will always say, we don't want this or we don't want that, but at the same time, we have some legal boundaries to stay within. And
The plan can change over time. Staff will obviously make recommendations for any proposed changes to the proposed plan. It is not set in stone. It is supposed to be a living document. It is supposed to be guidance.
Yeah, at the last meeting that we had, the work session on it, it appeared that there was a lot of leaning on staff for their recommendations, with just a little bit of guidance. So they're working feverishly to try to negotiate that and make sure that their recommendations to the council fall in line with what we believe to be the target going forward. And so I work with staff fairly closely, and Mr. Fearborn and Mr. Gress regularly. We have our economic development meetings. And so I try to be the voice for the council in those meetings, kind of knowing what, through my conversations with each of them, where we're wanting to move our city towards. So it's a lot of pressure on staff as well as me to try to interpret what some conversations are about, and it's just hard. As President Bush said, being mayor is hard. So it's a very interesting time. Once the landfill was killed, we've got a lot of developers coming back to us. Some of those proposals, and I'm very proud of staff. Staff has dug their heels in because they truly believe those aren't appropriate insertions of development into our community that could change the look and feel of our community. And so I'm really proud of them that they've taken that hard line and stayed within the legal boundaries of our statutes and ordinances. So it's a delicate balance. This, as David said, this is a living document. It can be changed if the winds of time change or the sands of time change. We can jump right back in, make alterations to it, run it back through planning and zoning, beat the heck out of it at work sessions and get back on track. But I think staff has a very good understanding of what their task is ahead. It's a hard one because they've only been given a little guidance. When I ask if there's any input at those council meetings, I hear crickets from time to time. And so then we go right back to staff and say, okay, if were your recommendation, what would you recommend, that type of thing? Because I think they have a pretty good feel working with you guys and working with the council on how we're, and all the other citizen input on how to move forward and maintain our hometown feel.
thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Yes, sir, Mr. Shanks.
If I'm looking at the document correctly, it looks like roughly 8,500 home units in town right now, and then over the next 20 years, that might go, we might see another like 5,300 units. So what's from a flow of traffic and just the infrastructure of the city as a whole, like that's a pretty sizable percentage increase. I guess if I would have read the entire document, I'd have a lot of these answers, right? But can you give me some like high level understanding of kind of like how we're going to be able to balance that, the growth?
So a lot of the factors that go into some of those calculations deal with what causes the need for more housing to be built. The first one is just as our population continues to grow, there's an obvious demand for more housing to support that. The other factor is as you have families in the community that might be in their first-time home and they're looking to move up to something bigger, there's obviously a demand for more housing because of that. So the numbers that you see in there that are kind of projections for the number of housing units, and keep in mind that's over the next 20 years,
Right.
is what some of those projections were estimated to be. And so part of our job is to monitor what was in that plan over those, annually or every 5 years to kind of check back in on those targets. As a whole, though, as it goes to or relates to our development potential, I guess, I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but we still have a fair amount of undeveloped land within the city limits. We have a large area on the east side of town that's kind of our targeted annexation area. So a lot of that is looking at, where do we have vacant land in the middle of the city for some infill neighborhoods? Where are the reasonable expectations for where subdivisions will continue to grow outwards in the city as we annex further out? As you look at things like utilities and infrastructure that is needed, we have to balance where it is more appropriate to have a more rural type development, some larger lots where you just don't have the infrastructure to support a traditional neighborhood. As the mayor mentioned, as you look at balancing some non-single-family residential uses, you typically want to look to cluster those around your arterials or your interchanges, where you expect to have more traffic as a result of that. So as the mayor mentioned, part of that is on staff as we're having discussions with developers that are interested in coming to the city. Our job is to kind of guide them, based on what type of development they're looking to bring to the city. Our job is to guide them where we think that's most appropriate based on our future land use plan, some of the characteristics and different zoning tools that are recommended to be implemented from a design standpoint. So overall, like I said, we have a fair amount of undeveloped land that would support the need for that many homes in the future. The question that the mayor was kind of alluding to is, of those 5,000 homes or dwelling units, what is the appropriate mix of how those are developed? How many of those are single-family neighborhoods? How does that break out over time?
I'm just thinking if there was a 40% increase in traffic in front of Quick Trip, that would be, it's hard to even fathom, right? So, but
But you have to remember, it's not just 58. Again, we go down south, you've got North Cass Parkway where I can walk across that with my kid holding his hand and not worry about a car hitting me right now. And so obviously as we develop, they're not going to just develop here in the core, it's going to develop all in the peripheral as well.
right. I'm just thinking about stress points though. Like some places are going to be plenty spread out, that'll be fine. But in my mind, I think of 58 as being kind of the pipeline of the city, and a lot of stuff runs through that. And I don't know if we're going to be able to have like a secondary highway somewhere. So.
Well, I think what Mr. Akio is mentioning is that those traffic patterns are going to change when and if that area develops down there the way we foresee it developing, with
Okay.
the same amenities that are along 58 and another location that will be utilized equally. So, you have a better dispersion
So the
of traffic.
shopping and the restaurants and the gas
Right.
and stuff, they'll just go to a different place
There's-
entirely.
There's potentially other options.
Not entirely, just
Not
on top
entirely.
of. Like, we'll
Yeah.
still have 58, but then North Cass Parkway could be the second 58, where there's restaurants and development down there. There's just not the households right now to support that. But as it expands, then that's kind of the idea.
Okay.
That's all.
You had 2,000 houses across North Cass down there, and you got Dean. So you've got great property right there, right off the highway. That's perfect for convenience stops. I think at one time we'd even looked at some multi-use, development there, apartments and offices and homes and whatever else. And so, you add in 5,000 people down that way. They're not going to always just drive up there. The businesses come with rooftops is kind of what people always complain. Why don't we put in restaurants? Well, we don't put in anything, but the commercial will follow residential. Okay. So you
The
put
other
some
thing
stuff down there, and people will service it.
The other thing I can add is, I believe it's chapter 4.2, deals specifically with transportation, so kind of what you're asking about. So it's actually on page 101 if you can scroll to it, but there's a lot of relatively recent road projects that the city has built to provide better east-west connectivity outside of just 58 Highway. There's a couple more that are contemplated in here for other road extensions that would eventually alleviate some of the need to utilize 58 Highway. one of the ones we're really excited about is Sunset Lane. That's going to provide a better access into Creekmore and out of Creekmore into the Parkside development. Right now, those developments are kind of stuck using Fox Ridge or Madison. And so as we build out our land use network with the development, the other thing that we think about is the road connections that will either be improved if they need to be widened, or new roads that have to be built to accommodate for that. So I just wanted to point out that it's kind of obviously a two-point approach with the land use and then what infrastructure has to be built. But we try to put a lot of emphasis in the transportation aspect of the plan of what our major road network is pretty well established with a lot of the GeoBond projects that the council has been able to have built over the last several years. And so now we're kind of looking back at what additional improvements can be made to that. We've talked a lot about the potential for an overpass at Lucy Webb would be another potential good east-west connector between us and Belton. We obviously have the interchange at some point that's going to be redone at 58 and 49 that will alleviate some of those concerns. So there's other projects that will eventually alleviate some of the pressure points you were kind of mentioning, I would imagine as well.
Sorry to interrupt. I think Mr. Zur is.
That's all right. Mr. Gress kind of hit on it very shortly there. One of the follow-up questions or the comments that I thought I'd be important for him to reference is the new interchange onto 58 Highway. Both Mayor and Mr. Gress, I think, may have input with regard to that as additional, hey, these are going to be further assistance with regard to 58. So I'd open it up or let them each speak to that one. I just didn't want to get that missed or passed over quickly.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, so I know as part of our, I believe it was the last GeoBond issuance, the council earmarked, I think it was $3 million to contribute to our, the need or the benefit of Raymore of getting 58 and 49 either widened on 49 or some interchange work done at 58 and 49. MoDOT has since then obviously indicated that they have the ability to come in and help us with that project. And so I don't know the specific timeline, but I know that they've committed to designing some of the work. We've seen some of the different conceptual layouts of what they're looking to propose there. But even that alone was kind of expected to alleviate some of the congestion. Belton has made some improvements on there and recently with the relocation of some signals. And so hopefully in the next handful of years, we'll have a lot of work going on at the interchange that would alleviate some more of those pinch points as well.
And potential for the flyover.
Yeah, correct.
Awesome. Any other questions for city staff?
No, I would say that I like the the idea that you said there'll be some flexibility in the plan, because some of what happens is driven by what happens in the market, right? So the housing market versus the multifamily market, all these things that are taking place, I think that's going to be important year over year as we revisit this plan. So that's always been a delicate balance, though. Since I've been on the commission for the last 10 years, there's been a few delicate balances. One is growth versus hometown feel, right? Some people want the growth, some people want but we don't want too much growth. That's always been an issue. The housing has always been an issue versus retail space versus multifamily. Also, the downtown gathering space, what is going to be the hub, what can we call Main Street if there was a Main Street here? So there's been a lot of these issues, and I like the plan you guys came up with here, because I think it's important to set a direction for the city, and somehow stick to that direction somehow, because we sort of over the last 10 years or so, we kind of actually 12, 13 years got off out of focus sometimes. So hopefully we can revisit this and it'll go forward and we can set a direction.
I guess my only final question would be, since we don't have, are you looking for some sort of commission approval, acceptance? What is the appropriate?
I don't think there's any action. We were just, if there was any additional topics that the commission wanted staff to research before we brought it back forward. It doesn't sound like there's anything substantial. So no action needed on staff's part, but we'll be looking forward to bringing this back in its final format to you all, again, for formal adoption here next month.
Perfect. Very good. Thank you very much. So that'll conclude our new business this evening. I would turn to Mr. Zur for the city council report, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Happy to provide a council report. Your last meeting occurred on February 4th, and since that time, we've had 3 city council meetings where legislative action has occurred. The first one was February 10th. That meeting, city council had the opportunity to review and have a first reading of the Raymore Gateway final plat. This is the 2 lots that are Chick-fil-A, previously China Star. That was the only major item on the February 4th meeting. February 24th meeting, they had the second reading of the Raymore Gateway final plat approval, previously approved by you all on the 4th of February. That has gone through, so that's now officially a 2-lot location. Also at that meeting was the renewal of my contract, so I get to be able to be before you for a couple more years. Very happy and honored to be able to come and join you all. On March 10th, the next item that I'd provide for you is kind of an overview, less development side, more of things that have occurred since you all had the opportunity to review an item. The council considered a bill to void the Whitetail Ordinance rezoning that made a PUD of the Whitetail Second. There was a lot of citizen turnout for your public hearing on that, and there has been further follow-up for it. And since that time, and it's important to understand, from a development standpoint, you all have the opportunity to see a rezoning that comes before you. Included with that is a preliminary development plan, and included with that is a memorandum of understanding. All 3 of those things are critical for a PUD zone development. Following the approval by the plan, or the recommendation for approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission, City Council had the opportunity to review and consider it. At the conclusion of their determination, they voted in favor of adopting the PUD designation, along with authorizing the execution of an MOU, and with that MOU, approval of a preliminary development plan. That MOU was specifically with Salee Development. Salee Development came before you. They had a number of their representatives present before you. Following the approval by the City Council of proceeding forward with that MOU, city staff received 2 inputs, one from the property owner and one from Salee, indicating that they were no longer in communication, they were no longer negotiating, and that the transaction had fallen through. The entity that we had approved entering into this development agreement with was Salee. With Salee no longer in the picture, it makes it impossible for performance to be to go forward. And so what we are basically doing is to clarify everything and to clear the plate for future development. We have brought back before the council a proposed bill that would void any of the authorizations to enter into the MOU. Salee is no longer capable of doing so. That will basically retain the original zoning of the property for any potential development that might come back before you all with a similar or some altered rezoning or development plan. Not necessarily impacting upon you, but sometimes things fall through, and this is one of those examples where we're trying to clean it up so that future development can come in and kind of have a clean plate before you, if and when the developer or the owner find new developers to step in. So that's had a first reading. It'll have its second reading in another week, and that will kind of restart the process or restart that property for future development. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have regarding that and or any of the other things that I reported on.
Yes, sir. Mr. Shanks.
On the memo of understanding, does that come from the developer, or does that get started with the city first?
So the city staff has either a development plan or an MOU with nearly every developer that comes before you all.
Okay.
We draft that, staff drafts that. It's a part of your packet. We don't spend generally a whole lot of time on it because many of the points are not form-oriented, but they have a draft that they work from, and they then specify it based upon the development that's before you all.
If there would have been a contractual agreement already in place, would that have been notated in the memo?
Contractual,
Like if the landowner and Salee in this example, if they would have, it sounds like the talks fell through. So that leads me to believe, maybe I'm wrong, that they did not have like any type of signed contract.
I anticipate there was a contingent contract. In fact, I
Okay.
know there was a contingent
Okay,
contract
never mind
that
then.
was allowed to expire, and rather than renewal of it or rather than
Okay.
extension of it, it was allowed to expire, and the negotiations thereafter broke up.
And to clarify that, in order to file the application to start the process, the applicant and/or the owner have to either provide proof of ownership, or the applicant has to provide the authorization to be
Okay.
proceeding forward on the owner's behalf. So just to follow up to Mr. Zer's comment there.
It actually happens pretty regularly. This is probably the first time in a long time that I've seen a situation where it's just kind of completely dissipated after the process.
Mr. Mayor, anything to add to his city council report?
Do not, thank you.
Absolutely. City staff report.
Just a brief staff report this evening. I wanted to remind the commission that we will be canceling our April 1st meeting, the next meeting here. Myself, Mr. McCumber, and Commissioner Pfizer will be traveling to Denver for the National Planning Conference this year. So thankful again for the council for providing the funding for us to attend that. Our next meeting will be on April 15th. As I mentioned, we'll be bringing forward the comprehensive plan for formal review and hopeful adoption. And then we'll also have a public hearing for a rezoning request that we've been working on for, there's a small tract of undeveloped land behind O'Reilly Auto Parts and Casey's. The applicant is requesting to rezone that from a C2 zoning designation to a C2P, which is just a planned overlay. Staff has been working with that property owner to accomplish some design requirements for what that property owner is trying to do. And so we'll be looking forward to the presentation of that and some feedback from the commission on April 15th. Outside of that, I will follow up early April with the department report for you all to look at. And if you have any questions in between now and April 15th, feel free to reach out to Mr. McCumber or myself, and we're always happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any members of the commission have any questions for staff? Seeing none, this takes us to public comment. Would our one sole public person have any comments to add this evening? All right. Well, thank you for being here, Mr. Faulkner. So this would take us to commission member comments. I will start to my immediate left with Vice Chair Pfizer.
Okay, thanks to staff for keeping us informed and getting our packets all together. I'm happy to hear that Mr. Zur will be with us for a little bit longer. It's always good to see you. It's nice to see Mr. Faulkner here. Did we do okay? I mean, you know the rules better than anybody, so. And I'm looking forward to the planning conference. It's always exciting. I think everyone should go at some point. I say that every year, and you guys all look at me like I'm crazy, but it really is. It's great, and it's really a great opportunity that the city allows it and offers it. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Secretary Peterman.
Thanks. Sounds like staff's got a bunch of stuff cut out for them coming up here, so they'll be busy. Thank you for all the work that you do.
Commissioner Smith.
I appreciate the staff as always. Enjoy the plan and everything, and I appreciate the willingness to think things through, like with the Stubb Street, and like, hey, look, we want to try this and everything. So it's just a willingness to try stuff like that. So,
Commissioner Shanks.
Congratulations on the extension and the new haircut. And I think that the comprehensive plan, just hours and hours and hours of work that's gone into it. So just congratulations to you and your team for what's been probably years in the making, getting this together. A lot of hard work, and it's showing up, and it's obvious. Great job, City. Thank you.
Commissioner Kia.
Welcome to our new guy. I know I've missed the last few meetings, so a couple of new faces. I guess I'll get to meet another one sometime in the future, but welcome and congratulations. I thought, with me sticking around that, you'd want to move along, but I appreciate you staying. It's always good to see you, Mr. Zur, and congratulations on the extension. Definitely thank the city staff for everything you guys do, all the hard work you put into everything that you do for us. I love the packets now, how we kind of flow. It's a lot easier to follow. I know all the hard work you guys put in, and it doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you.
Commissioner Bowie, sir.
Echo everybody's appreciation to staff for your hard work. Also echo everybody's congratulations on another contract. And I echo the hello to former Commissioner Faulkner. And safe travels to Denver, by the way. And I'm so happy to see spring and sunshine. Goodness gracious. That's it.
Mayor Turnbow, sir.
Yeah, we talked a lot about the comprehensive plan tonight, and a bit that David touched on is city services with regard to any annexation that we might consider in the future. And one of the things that we have to prove up when we do something like that is that we have the services in place to move forward. One of the things that we have ahead of us here on April the 8th is the public safety sales tax. That'll allow us to enlarge our police department, which is constantly, on a regular basis, if you look at the statistics from the FBI, you'll see that our calls for service go up every year. The amount of crime continues to seep into our community, not at an alarming rate. But as a police chief, I always looked at burglaries and car thefts as an indication as to whether or not we're being preyed upon more and more. The burglaries are starting to happen at I wouldn't say an alarming rate, but I'm starting to catch one or two a week on our police blog. And as a police chief, that always worried me, and that always kept me inspired to get out there, make sure we were clearing these cases, we were recovering property. Chief Wilson is the same way, and he needs more help. And I hope people will educate themselves on the public safety sales tax. It's different than the use tax. The use tax, as you know, was an out-of-state sales tax for mostly online sales, but other outside of the state sales as well. The public safety sales tax, which we've not taken advantage of, but some of our surrounding communities have, is specifically designed for public safety. That quarter cent will allow us to generate enough sales tax from people buying things inside the city limits of Raymore. It's equally distributed to those individuals who are buying things in the city of Raymore, not just Raymore residents. And it'll give us an opportunity to add at least 8 more officers, which is our immediate goal, to add to the street, to ensure that we have the proper coverage, that we have the proper manpower to do the detective work, the follow-up, catching the bad guys, putting them in jail, recovering property. And I just hope people will really take a hard look at that on April the 8th. It's different than the use tax. I think we've got the entirety of the council in support of it now, and I'm hoping the rest of the community will see the importance of maintaining a level of public safety, which is our number one priority. At least it is mine. I mean, I've always pushed for public safety being our number one priority, and I hope you all think the same way, but it really is important. And there is a certain segment of that will apply to transportation, and we're hoping that we can keep 58, the corridor you just mentioned earlier, in proper order for that good order of business for commercial and residential traffic. So it is primarily a public safety sales tax, though, and I think it's worth getting out there and considering. And Mr. Bowie, you mentioned the comprehensive plan. As part of our packet tonight, it is available to anybody because the agenda is posted online, so you can get a copy of that. Or people, if they're interested, can get a copy of it online just by going to our agenda this evening. So it is posted out there. And then last night at the work session, we had 2 presentations. One was from the Parade of Hearts, which is an organization that you're all aware of, that we've had a heart here in our city previously, but they're changing up their goals and practices a little bit. It's still going to be art that will be dispersed throughout the Kansas City metropolitan area over a 6-county region, but it is also they've included an app that they're designing for purposes of communities that jump on board with their $10,000 contribution will have access to this app that will be accessible during the months of April of 26 through like August. Covers the World Cup. I mean, it's going to be an important location for people that are visiting our region, and even for our own folks that live here in the area, to know what other communities are doing with regard to festivities and activities, offers of coupons, things like that they will be able to post on, probably in concert with our Chamber of Commerce, to post online that people will be able to take advantage of, to see if we have sporting activities, things of that nature that complement the World Cup. It's a fairly large, so the board is considering that in future meetings to get on board with that. And I've been working with Mr. Fearborn to see how we could carve that out of the budget to ensure that Raymore is included and municipalities that participate. And then the second presentation was from Diana Bryant. She's with the Solid Waste Management District of the Mid-America Regional Council. And ever since our involvement with the landfill fight occurred, I have stayed engaged after the fight to ensure that the Kansas City metropolitan area is looking at every opportunity to minimize the amount of waste that goes to landfill. We're looking into remanufacturing, refurbishing, recycling, potential waste to energy opportunities. But we have to coax those industries here to the Kansas City metropolitan area, and we have to be on board with it enough in the metropolitan area to offer that the materials to them for their use by sorting, recycling, being more aware of how we compost and things of that nature, where it can generate methane, which can be converted to gas. So there's a lot of industries out there. There is if you go to the Mid-America Regional Council Solid Waste Management District site on the Mid-America Regional Council, they just completed a study. We had a company out of the Netherlands do a very broad study of the Kansas City metropolitan area and where waste is going, how some is being diverted, but most of it, who's creating the waste, most of it's coming commercially rather than residential. You'd think it'd be residential, not so much. It's more commercially, so we have to get those folks on board. It's a very broad plan to address it. Her doctorate is in environmental protection. So she is in the know. If you get a chance it was a long presentation last night. I thought she got a little windy, but she's an academician, so that she comes from that community. So it was a great presentation. If anybody'd like to see that study, you can go online or email me. I can forward you the study, the link to the study, because I am on the co-chair of that executive roundtable that's been looking into this. We'll have another meeting in May where some of these industries are actually going to come present to us and tell us what it's going to take, not only financially, but the kind of resources they're going to need, trash coming their way, whether it's recyclable or not, to make it profitable for them to plant their business here in the metropolitan area. So it's an ongoing effort. It's one, as you can tell, I'm very passionate about, and I'm staying engaged with that, not only for Raymore, but for the whole metropolitan area. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, city staff, as always. As Mayor mentioned, Tuesday, April 8th is our local municipal election. Mayor Turnbow is up for re-election. You do not have an opponent, to my understanding.
We are having a campaign forum here March 26th, right? It's just going to be me and Mr. Townsend, Mr. Baker. So you have the contested race in Ward 1, and I thought, I've got some thoughts and ideas. If I get asked a question, I still want people to understand where I'm coming from.
Absolutely. So that is March 26th, and then April 8th is the general election, which will include the sales tax, as mentioned, as well as, obviously, all 4 wards have a council member up and Mayor Turnbow for his 3-year term. Other than that, I have nothing else, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Kia, second by Mayor Turnbow to adjourn. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.